Welcome back to Random Grannie, and welcome to this episode of body doubling while we do our natural hair together. Today's going to be another detangle and talk, and I'm a little off kilter today because I've been having a lot of realizations about some things, and it's catching me a little bit off guard. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So hang tight. Okay, so before we get started though, let me show you what I'm going to be using to detangle today. If you've been with me for a while, you already know. I use pure aloe juice for my moisture instead of water. And then I follow that up with my current favorite, my apricot oil. And then using my African Pride pre-shampoo. Love this stuff. And then I'm going to do something a little bit different. So the products I'm going to be using on my hair today after I'm done with everything, I'm going old school today. I'll be using Alakay Naturals lemongrass leave-in conditioner. One of my favorites. This is like my top go-to. Going to be using that today. My standard favorite, Talia Wajid and her curly curl cream. I love her curl definer more, but this is a strong second place or a strong first place, you know, it's a tie. And then for my gel today, old school favorite, Eco Style, the olive oil one. I don't care for Eco Style gel, but I have a lot of it and I need to use it up, so we're gonna do that. So anyway, those are the products I'm gonna be using today. So lately, I've been realizing a few things and really having my eyes opened to what neurodivergence really means. I just found out yesterday from my son, talking to his dad. His dad left me shortly after the birth of our son. I think my son was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months old, you know, when he left us. And I always wondered why, you know, and I always knew that I was different, but I couldn't explain why I felt like I was different. But I was very volatile, and I would have, you know, just a lot of outbursts and meltdowns. And, you know, now at my age, figuring out, you know, after the ADHD diagnosis and now the autism thing, I see the confusion, because with him leaving because he thought I was crazy and thought I had bipolar. And years later, I had actually been diagnosed with anxiety disorder, and then later on, you know, depression. And that's even weird in and of itself, because right now, at the age of 64, I'm realizing that my depression was a product of my anxiety, and my anxiety is so clear now was a product of being overstimulated. Like all the time I was overstimulated. And I remember, you know, even back when, you know, me and my husband first had gotten married, you know, right out of high school, which is a big mistake. Don't do that, because you don't even know who you are. You have no idea who you are and what you're bringing to a relationship. I know I had no clue. You know, I still don't have a clue. But, you know, I'm sorting it out. And I'm realizing what that must have looked like, you know, from, you know, my ex-husband's perspective at the time. You know, not knowing that I was ADHD and not knowing that I was autistic, and what that looks like. It does look like bipolar, because it looks like 1 minute I'm like this normal person, whatever that is, and then the other part of me is like, all of a sudden I just erupt into this anger. It's only been recently that I'm understanding that I've been overstimulated this whole time, and then once I get overstimulated, it feels like it builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it has nowhere to go the overwhelm and the overstimulation has nowhere to go, so it erupts in anger. Now imagine being 19, 20 years old and you're erupting in anger all the time and lashing out and not knowing why. And how that looks to other people on the outside, yeah, I'm sure I looked crazy, and I'm sure I looked manic. But that wasn't it at all. I think back on that whole thing, and me and my husband at the time, we married right out of high school, and I was just overstimulated. I mean, first off, I didn't care for sex at all, but it's expected and I guess required is what I thought. And I did not enjoy being pregnant. Everybody was like, oh, you get married and you have kids and you buy a house. And, there was this expectation, of all of these things. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted that. But I went on ahead and did it because that was the expectation, right? I didn't know any different. And so it got complicated because when I got pregnant, now I can see it. I was overstimulated all the time. I already have a problem with like smells and noises and touch and all those things. And all those things were amplified when I was pregnant. I remember I could smell everything and it was overwhelming. And smells that were so bad that, he used to wear this cologne that we both just loved. It was gray flannel. It was like the best thing ever. When I got pregnant, the smell of gray flannel was so overwhelming that I would puke every time I smell it. And he got mad at me because I'm like, I can't smell it. You have to remove it from the house. I can't even look at the bottle. I puke. And he got so mad at me and he's like, well, it's my favorite and blah, blah, blah. And I don't understand why you're being, I don't understand why you're being crazy. And isn't that just the most interesting thing ever? And so while I've been researching ADHD and now autism also, I'm beginning to realize that there's an analogy out there that I absolutely love. And it's called, we don't have a disorder. We're operating with a different operating system. And I love that because I always felt like I was different, and I always felt like people didn't understand me, and I certainly didn't understand them. And that analogy has brought so much calm to my new thought processes, because it's like I feel like I've been a Mac my whole life, creative and different. Macs are for graphics, being a gamer, good for to do film and movies on, and Macs were just more creative. I always wanted a Mac and never had one because Macs intimidated me. Much like us with autism and ADHD, us neurodivergents, much like we must intimidate neurotypicals because we are so different. And I'm really starting to see and understand that now. And for me, it's almost even like a little bit of like a grieving process. I'm grieving the person that I thought I was, or am I grieving the person that I was pretending to be? Or am I grieving the fact that I want to be this person, but I have no idea who I am as that person? It's complicated. And thinking of myself as a different operating system has really helped, because I feel like a new model that's just come out that hasn't been released to the general population. It's exclusive, and I feel like I belong to this exclusive club that nobody understands and nobody's supposed to understand. I belong to an exclusive club that I don't even understand, and I'm the main character. I'm the main character in my own operating program, right? And then I feel like I'm navigating through all of these viruses: OCD, complex PTSD, anxiety, social anxiety, depression, sensory issues, executive dysfunction. All of those things feel like viruses just stuck to my Mac operating system. And then I'm looking over at the IBM wondering, why can't I operate like that IBM? You know? And that's kind of what my life has been feeling like lately. I see social interactions different, and most of my life, couldn't figure out social interactions, and so I became a people watcher, and I would watch people and I would mimic what they did. And that started as a child, in childhood, because I realized early on that I was different in social situations, and that, kids didn't want to play with me. And I couldn't figure out why. And so, but I wanted to feel like I was a part of things. I wanted to feel like I was a part of their operating system. So what I would do is I would make it look like I understand now what I was doing. I would make it look like I was, playing with people in their, in their groups. But what I would do is I would kind of like flit around from, group to group. I'd play with that group for a little while over there, and, pretend to be interested, and I'd be like, ooh, what are they doing over there? And so I would go over to, there to that group, and maybe that group over there. And I was a floater, you know what I mean? And so I would float from group to group so I could appear normal. I didn't want them to think I was different, because my preferred method, even as early as kindergarten, is I wanted to be over there at the table by myself. And I would get out the watercolors, or, the paints or the charcoal, something, and I would just start doing things by myself. And I don't remember necessarily getting in trouble, but I remember being told, I would be doing that, and then all of a sudden, I would be doing something else, or I would be in a different area, of the classroom, or I would be back in my chair, the teacher would be pointing at the board. And, later on, I figured out that, I couldn't see the board, because I needed glasses. And so, they thought, well, once we get her glasses, then she'll be able to pay attention. I got glasses and I still couldn't pay attention. All the glasses did was amplify, not the board, but that I had a different operating system from everybody else. It became more apparent. And I continued to, constantly be in trouble in my classes, because I preferred nap time, and I preferred lunch, and I preferred playing by myself. And when I was forced to, when kids were like playing in groups and stuff like that, I would just float, because I didn't know what else to do. I always saw social interactions just so different, and I saw social interactions as something hard. And even then, as a child, I was like, why does it seem so, I don't know exactly what I was thinking. I can describe it on how I was feeling. I felt like an outsider, but I felt like it should be easy to become an insider, not knowing that my Mac operating system would not be able to run IBM programs or software or interfaces. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Make it make sense, right? And so I'm struggling with that today. And, the ex-husband thing, my son talking to his dad the other day, it really just hit home, because, and part of me shouldn't care. I know I shouldn't care, but part of me is like, all these years, he thought I was crazy and bipolar, when I was just autistic and I was overstimulated. And that makes me so sad that we had that misunderstanding. But imagine the misunderstandings that are currently going on right now today. If you're sitting here with me today, and we're bonding together and we're doing our hair, share with me in the comments some things that you felt. What was it that made you feel different? What was it that made you realize that you were running a different operating system? Or did you even ever realize it? Because honestly, I never realized I was running with a different operating system. Honestly, I thought I was doing something wrong and I needed to conform. I thought I was doing it wrong. It felt like everybody else knew all the secrets, but I didn't get it. It's like when everybody was in their mommy's tummy and, growing and, in utero, it's like they sucked up all this knowledge and all this information, and then they were just like born with it. And then, and then somebody like me didn't get the memo. We didn't get that handbook. It's almost like instead of a handbook, it's almost like I got pictures of like depth and space, and I got pictures of air instead of words. I got pictures of sound and sensations instead of guidelines. I got, creativity and painting and writing, and instead of math skills or statistics, like that. And trying to figure it all out and trying to navigate it. And it's at the age of 64 right now, looking back on all of that and realizing that what I'm going through right now is this grieving process over grieving a person that I don't even know. I mean, how am I grieving a person that I've never met? Or have I met her? I walk differently. I remember when I was a child, my mom was always telling me, stop walking on your toes and stand up straight. I would walk on my toes and I would lean forward, and my hands on my side would look like, I don't remember what my mom used to tell me. She'd always tell me, stop walking on your toes and stand up straight. She would always put her hand on my forehead and on my butt and like try to make me stand up straight, and I walked on my toes and I was very pigeon-toed, and she would try to get me to conform, and I couldn't do it, and I would try, but and so I walked different, and I did things that brought my mother distress. I know that. I had this, I talked about it in my last video, problems with not problems, I have creativity with sensitivities and textures and those sorts of things. And I had this turtle that I just loved, and I would rock back and forth on that turtle all day long and rub its head until, all the material was off of there. And I remember that she would take me off of that turtle, and stop rocking on the turtle and, come over here and, play with this. And it was one of those, and I remember the toy, you guys. When I'm telling you this story about my turtle, understand that I was like maybe 3. I remember a lot of explicit detail very young, at the age of 2, before I was even able to walk. I remember specific things, and I remember that turtle, and I remember, I don't know, she wasn't mad. I don't know what she was, but she would take me off of the turtle, and she would try to make me play with this other toy. And it was one of those things that you push, those loud pop 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 pop, those loud pop things. I'll try to put a picture, if I can find it. And I hated that thing. And that thing made noise, and then there was another thing like a xylophone, one of those things that you go ding 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 ding, one of those. And I didn't like playing with that. And then one other thing that made a lot of noise. But a toy that I did like playing on, there's this thing that was like an abacus, that you count on. I liked playing with that. And there's this thing that you could take these little beads and they would travel along all of these different things. I really liked that. And I liked rocking on my turtle and feeling my turtle, you know, rubbing his head. And then the other thing that I used to like doing is my mother would rock me in this chair, and I loved the feel of the chair, and I was constantly rubbing the chair, and as she would rock back, I would rub the wallpaper because it was textured and it was beautiful. And so I'm constantly rubbing the chair and then the wall, and then the chair and then the wall, you know, as she's rocking. And she would get frustrated with me because she would rock herself to sleep and I'd be wide awake, because rocking keeps me awake. I do it to this day. If I need to pay attention, I'm constantly rocking my feet, and I'm constantly, you know, going back and forth like this. If I really need to concentrate and stay awake, I do that to this day. And I don't know if she knew that there was anything specific, you know, not wrong with me, but different, because she was always trying to get me to walk a certain way, or to talk a certain way, act a certain way, and, you know, stop rubbing the turtle. And, you know, when she found out that there was this back bedroom in the back of the house that had this chenille bedspread, when she found out that I was sneaking in there and I was eating the bedspread, I was picking and pulling the threads out of the chenille bedspread and eating the fibers, to the point of, you know, I'd be sick, you know, and she would wonder why. And I can't remember what happened one day. I think she went in there because it was just like a spare bedroom, and so nobody ever used it. And, you know, even back then, you know, my dad was hardly ever there, and if he was there, you know, he slept on the couch. They never, ever, ever slept together. I remember that too. And I don't remember why she went back there, but she went back there for something. Oh, she was so mad. And she called me in there and asked me if I was eating the bedspread. And I remember what the bedspread looked like. It was all white and blue, and it had some yellow bits in it. And I liked eating the white thread. I didn't like eating the pink thread or the blue thread, just the white thread. And I had a big, huge bald spot in there. And I noticed that it was getting bigger and bigger when I was smaller like that. But I was hoping that she wouldn't notice, because I'm like, she doesn't come back here very often, so maybe she won't notice. Well, she noticed, and she called me in there and asked me specifically. And of course, now as an adult, I'm sitting there like, well, of course it was me. There's nobody else, you know, because I was an only child. And apparently she wasn't eating it, and my dad wasn't eating it. And so I don't remember what I said, but I remember I had this feeling of just being wrong and being bad. And I didn't know how to get over that. And of course I was eating the bedspread, and of course I didn't know why. And, you know, and here it is, you know, still operating with my different operating system and thinking back. And not only did I eat the thread and the fibers off of the bedspread, but I loved, back then, I would make mud pies, and I would eat mud. I ate dirt. I would eat worms. And I would eat, I ate a lot of grass, and I ate a lot of dandelions and stuff like that. I still crave dandelions, but now I have dandelion tea instead because I still love the taste of it. And, you know, I can only imagine, you know, what my mother was even thinking back then, because, you know, life was just so different, you know, for her, you know, and she was, you know, living in a horribly abusive relationship. And I felt that. I literally remember at the age of 3 so clearly feeling like a stranger in my own home, and just feeling like I didn't belong, and how that felt. And even though I was living there with a mother and with a father, I always felt alone. and I always isolated myself. And this was even before school, because we had 2 bedrooms in the back of the house, and the 1 bedroom was where I would go in and I would eat the bedspread. And I mean, I was frantic about it. I needed to eat that bedspread, and I had to keep it a secret, because I must have known it was wrong, because I was doing it in secret. And then there was another bedroom back there too, that I would sit on the edge of the bed and pretend, I was a cowgirl, and playing a fake guitar and looking out my window and pretending that I was looking out, over the prairie, and, that I had my horse tied up to a hitching post. I've loved horses, since my first memories are of watching Westerns and loving horses, and particular loving Appaloosas and everything like that. But as early as the age of 3, oops, sorry, I was, you know me, I'm looking everywhere, here. And looking back at that poor child and realizing that I wasn't lonely, but I was alone. And I chose to be alone. I chose to isolate myself so young. And I'm still confused about that, but I'm going to unpack that too. And then, of course, once I got to kindergarten and everything like that, I felt so, I just remember feeling weird and feeling so out of place, and feeling like the kids were laughing at me, even though I didn't hear them laughing. It felt like they were laughing. And from an early age, I always thought, I'm so silly, you guys. I am so weirded out today. I haven't even used my aloe water. You guys, I feel like I'm living on another planet, and that it has no gravity, yet my feet are on the ground, but I feel light and buoyant and disconnected. And I don't know what to do with those feelings yet. I'm still unpacking everything. But being in school and feeling what I thought I was feeling from the other kids made it even easier for me to, sit over at the table by myself and, get out the colors and get out the crayons, and, even remembering things when we were able to color and do those things, the teacher would still make us color in groups of 4 at these tables. And I'm like, but I just want to be over here by myself. Why do I have to be sitting at the table with the other kids? And then when I would draw my family, I was drawing my family, I drew me and my mom with brown crayon, and my dad with like the lighter crayon, like maize. It was a maize color, and having the kids making fun of me, being like, oh, well, you're using a brown crayon for your family, and that's weird, and why would you do that, and we're all using this color, and I was the only dark child in my class, and it was uncomfortable sitting at a table with them. And I specifically remember that because I was angry, and I crunched it up, and then I redrew it, and then I just left the stick figures just blank. I didn't put brown in there, or their color, whatever color that was they were using, what was it called back then? I don't even know. Probably nude or peach. Not everybody nude is that color. We're not all pink. And I remember there was this one girl in class, and she just thought she was just so much better than everybody. And I remember thinking to myself, why do you think you're so special? I'm this beautiful, and I remember thinking this, I'm this beautiful brown color, and I have these dark black eyes and this black hair. You're pink and yellow. And I thought that was so weird. I'm like, why do you think you're so much better because you're pink and yellow? That's a weird color. To me, that was weird. I'm not gonna lie, it was weird. And you know, even something like that, you know, feeling like I didn't belong, you know, in that group, because my operating system was different. My operating system was even a different color. My operating system wanted to work off to the side and wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I know that sounds selfish, but part of me was like, why does anybody have to do what they don't want to do? Now, you know, keep it within reason. I'm talking kindergarten here. And, you know, the feeling of being different and what that meant, you know, as early as kindergarten, and looking back on my life and seeing that I've isolated myself since I was in diapers. How do you unpack and process that as a 64-year-old? I don't know, but I'll work my way through it. And you know, the other really cool thing for me is I so much enjoy science and biology. And I love how the brain works. And I'm so interested in why my brain works the way it does. I'm interested in learning and discovering, you know, this new operating system. And you know, as far as my other operating system is, everybody has always thought my whole life that I was a know-it-all and that I was rude. And I would explain, I'm not a know-it-all. I've just thought whatever it is that we're talking about, I've thought of it almost instantaneously from all different directions all at once to be able to come up with what I think is the best decision. And how do you explain that to somebody? How do you explain that you're everywhere all at once? Because it sounds a little crazy. But even when I was young and small, I was everywhere all at once. And I thought everybody was, you know? And getting back to, you know, the differences of my operating system, I always walked different. Like I said, I walked on my toes, and I was very pigeon-toed, and I walked forward, and I walked with I would hold my hands weird, and, you know, down by my side, you know, it was always like this, you know, down by my side, and I would lean forward and walk on my toes. And I remember that my mother always seemed distressed that I did that. I talked different, you know, than anybody my age. I was always more mature and talking in full sentences really, really early, and reading really early too. I was reading before kindergarten. And, you know, I had an interest in biology and science before kindergarten. And, you know, I had a microscope that I loved using, and I loved getting any little thing and shoving it underneath there to see, you know, what was going on and what it looked like. And, you know, being different like that as a young child is very noticeable. And so very young, I would hide myself. I would hide who I am, and I would hide the things that I like, and I would try to blend in. And if I couldn't blend in, I would isolate myself at, you know, at different tables and everything like that, because I couldn't figure out what else to do. I've always been considered blunt and rude, and I kind of understand that now, but I'm not rude. I'm one of the nicest people I know, and I know that sounds so narcissistic, but I'm not a narcissist, and I'm not rude. I understand now how I seem rude, because I'm very blunt, and I get straight to the point. I'm a direct communicator, and I need that. One of the things that me and my husband struggle with right now, as far as communicating, the one thing that really wedges us apart sometimes is he's very nondescript. Like, he'll point or do like, you know, or something like that. And I'm like, I don't understand you. I need you to use words. And then if he uses words, 10 times out of 10, I misunderstand those words. I misunderstand everything. I misunderstand social cues. I misunderstand casual conversations with people. I misunderstand conversations at work. I misunderstand construed directions or instructions. I even misunderstand something like getting written up. I don't understand why I'm getting written up for that particular thing. And I really think it's because I just see things so differently. And if the information you're providing me isn't concrete, clear, and concise, I don't understand it. I speak clear, concrete, and concise, and I'm considered rude and blunt. And therein lies the different operating systems again. One operating system works this way and needs these programs, and the rest of the world is operating, over here. And our software packages, don't blend. And I don't know, you guys. I've just been doing a lot of soul searching, this past week, and I try not to get angry and frustrated when people don't understand my thought process or how my brain works, especially when I'm trying to figure it out myself, And the really good thing, if you're an elder out there, or if you're an adult and you feel different, something is different or unique about you, and if you haven't done it, think about getting a diagnosis for ADHD or for autism, no matter your age, because even for me in my 60s right now, I feel so grateful that I finally understand what's going on with me, and I'm finally understanding why I'm different. And for the first time in my life, because I have this information, I can finally explain a little bit about why I do the things I do, why I blow up from anger. It's not anger, it's overstimulation that has nowhere to go. And being able to know those sorts of things and share those sorts of things has really been, an unforeseen gift. But anyway, just some stuff that I've had on my mind that I wanted to, get out there and get off my chest. I'm all done. That went really quick. I'm trying to be more mindful of my time, and I already introduced to you the products that I'm going to be using, so I'm kind of excited about that. But anyway, I hope some of this resonates with you a little bit, and I hope that if you've been struggling trying to figure out who you are, to just kind of relax and let who you are unfold. Do your research, find out little bits and pieces and nuggets of who you are. Take the pieces that work for you and throw the rest away. And be kind to yourself and love yourself. And while you're doing that, don't forget to come back and hang out with me some more, because I'm telling you, I'm really enjoying hanging out with you guys and just talking out loud and getting things off my chest to you guys, things that I can't explain to other people. And so you guys are very cathartic for me and really helping me, navigate my new journey and everything like that. And I couldn't be more grateful. So anyway, you all have a great day. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in my next video.